This is one of the biggest-selling books of all time. Last year, even though Atlas Shrugged is 54 years old, it sold 500,000 copies. Last year, it's more than 10 times the sales of Barack Obama's books combined. Hey, no bias expressed here. And yet, even though Hollywood loves making movies based on best-selling books because they bring in a ready-made audience, there's never been a movie made based on this book. Until now. Now, the Atlas Shrugged movie, Part 1, is coming out. It premiered Tuesday night in Washington, D.C. Some of the actors at the premiere said they'd never read the book, but just doing the movie opened their eyes.
I found myself questioning everything I'd ever assumed that I knew.
Shortly, we'll give you an exclusive look at part of that movie. It opens nationwide April 15th. Appropriate, given that's usually tax day. So, this book is more than 50 years old and a huge bestseller. Why is it only being made into a movie now? I suspect it was because the lefties in Hollywood hate Ayn Rand and her defense of capitalism, but I can't prove that. What I do know is that what it took to get the movie made was a libertarian businessman from outside Hollywood buying the rights and making the movie himself. Here's that businessman. His name is John Agliolaro. He's joined by the movie producer he hired, Harmon Kaslow, as well as one of the film's actors, Matthew Marston. So, John, what took so long? And you had to spend $20 million of your own money. Why was it so difficult?
Well, I think studios are actually risk-adverse. Studios want to make money. They're in business to do so. But this is a 1,200-page book, controversial in its politics. And although we tried, it was difficult to get done.
Well, congratulations on getting it done. Harmon, at one point, Angelina Jolie was interested.
Yeah, there were a number of major Hollywood actresses over the years that expressed an interest in playing the role of Dagny Taggart. It's probably one of the greatest roles a woman could ever imagine playing in a Hollywood movie.
Charlize Theron was interested? Well, I mean, what did they say? I like this part, or?
Well, actually, I came onto the project in April of 2010. John was a lucky guy to be able to
they really
meet those
wanted
beautiful ladies.
To play the part?
Yeah, Charlize Theron was interested in the TV miniseries. At that point, the Lionsgate was involved in the project, and the producers of that TV miniseries said, you know what, let's have Charlize do 1 hour of that, maybe 2 hours, and we'll get other actresses to do the rest of those 6 hours. That was not a good idea, so she begged out.
And Harmon, you hired some of the actors, like Matthew, like 2 days before filming?
Yeah, this handsome guy, we brought him on after we cast Taylor Schilling as Dagny, just a tremendous, magnificent actress. And we needed to surround her, obviously, with people that we felt complemented what she brought to the picture. Matthew was our first choice for James Taggart. And we got a bunch of other just fabulous actors to come on, very courageous, take on the role, and to be a part of really the creation of the movie Atlas Shrugged.
And Matthew, you had never read Atlas Shrugged.
No, I hadn't. I do have a friend, though, that was an objectivist, and I did mention Rand and Atlas Shrugged, kind of in passing, but I didn't really press him on it. And I got the script, and I called him up. I'm like, hey, I got this script. It's, you know, I hear you've mentioned this Rand and Atlas. Oh, you've got to do that movie. You have to do it. You don't understand. You are doing that movie. You are doing that movie. So I'm like, okay. He was a bit passionate about it, so yeah.
And so you did the movie, and we will show you a longer clip later on. But Matthew, let's first watch a brief clip from one of your scenes. You play one of the villains, James Taggart.
Henry Reardon claims that his steel is lighter than even the cheapest brands, but is 10 times stronger. This is physically impossible, Jim. You're inviting disaster if you use it.
Dagny is not me.
Well, something has to be done.
Agreed.
I believe you know Wesley Mouch, or Reardon's man in Washington.
You know what I like about you, Wesley? You're a one-word man.
True.
You're a good actor to get rid of your accent and become an American for the movie here. You're what they call a conservative, I hear, and that's forbidden. in the acting business.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, there's quite a few of us, but we tend to have to keep a low profile. I mean, recently I was doing a job, and there was a writer on set, and he was Cuban. And I walked over to him, I'm like, you like Marco Rubio? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, good man, good man. Later he calls me over, he's like, are you a conservative? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, great, giving me a hug. You know, and then, I mean, that's what it's like, literally. It really is.
Why? What's that about? Why do you have to keep it secret?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's kind of an anomaly for me, you know, coming from the UK and coming over and seeing it. It's
Well, in the UK, it's okay to be...
Yeah, because you're not kind of... I guess a conservative in the UK would kind of be seen not very conservative over here. But I think that there's definitely a stigma that is attached to it. Whatever anyone wants to say is different, but there is. And in Hollywood, it's such a leftist culture that if you said you were not part of that, you might not get more jobs. That's true, but, you know, we've got to stand up and, you know, I believe in free speech, and you have to say what you believe in, and You're out of the closet now. We'll see if you get any more parts. And studio, I mean, I don't know if it was political, but you're distributing this movie yourselves. Studios wouldn't do it. Right. Well, I mean, they had the opportunity. Certainly, we made the movie available for them to screen, and a few of the representatives of studios came and saw the film. But really in the spirit of individualism and really what this book is about, you know, John, his vision was that we could really self-distribute, that we could, in a sense, compete with the Hollywood business model.
Well, let's get the plug in, though. It will open up in about 80 cities, 300 theaters. 300 theaters. In 80 cities. On Friday. Friday. And when can we expect part 2? And this part, there are going to be 3 parts, because it's more than 1,000 Yeah,
pages.
we are going to follow the book. We're going to adapt it faithfully, part 2 and part 3. April 15th, 2012 is the aspiration for part 2, and part 3, April 15th, 2013.
We look forward to that. John, Harmon, Matthew, stick around. When we come back, we'll give you that exclusive sneak preview of the new Atlas Shrugged movie. Thank you, John. We're back with the producers of the new Atlas Shrugged movie, John Agliolaro, Harmon Kaslow, as well as Matthew Marsden, the actor who plays James Taggart. In a moment, we'll play a sneak preview of the movie for you, but first, a few questions from my Facebook page and Twitter. Catherine McCluskey asks, I heard the last installment of the movie, the 3-parter, is going to be a musical. Say it ain't so.
You know, Victor Hugo was one of her favorite authors. And a terrible idea would have been to make a musical out of Les Miserables, such a dark, dreary, it just couldn't happen. Oh, it just celebrated its 25th anniversary, and it's done wonderfully. So you can make a musical out of a dark, dreary movie. If
Part 3 of Atlas Shrugged is going to be
We haven't started yet on part 3.
It's marketing spin.
Actually, before we go to questions, let's take a look at a longer scene from the movie that you, the producers, I'm grateful you've given it to us exclusively. So here in this scene, steelmaker Hank Reardon's warned about trouble in Washington.
I don't care what the industry says, Henry. Reardon Metal, it's terrific. I just hope you don't run into any trouble.
What trouble?
Well, you're not very popular, Hank.
I haven't heard any complaints from my customers.
Yeah, that's not what I mean. You know what you should do? You ought to get yourself a good press agent to sell you to the public.
It's my metal I'm selling, not me. Thank you.
But you don't want the public against you. Public opinion, you know, can mean a lot.
As far as I can tell, it doesn't mean a damn thing one way or another.
The press is against you?
They have time to waste. I don't.
Well, they say you're intractable, you're ruthless, your only goal is to make money.
My only goal is to make money.
Yeah, but you shouldn't say it. Hank, I'm on your side. How's your band in Washington?
Wesley Mouch. It's fine, I suppose.
Good. It's important that your man in Washington is fine.
What are you trying to imply, Paul? Is there something going on that I should know about?
No. It's nothing. Just, you don't know who's loyal these days.
What is wrong with the world, Paul?
Well, I ask useless questions. How deep is the ocean? How high is the sky? Who is John Galt?
And of course, that's the classic question featured throughout the story, but I want to go back to something that he said. You got to make sure you have a good man in Washington. And that's true today, and that's sad. You've got Silicon Valley companies who used to have no lobbyists. Now they spend millions on lobbyists. You have to kiss their ring.
Well, that's an assumption that elitist politicians in Washington have to understand, that when you take away the producers and the creators, the entrepreneurs from doing what they're doing, they may want to strike. And we don't want Atlas shrugging in America. So when government goes up to the golden goose each day and takes an egg, well, there may be a day when the goose will say, drop dead.
Let me go to your thoughts, questions. Yes, sir.
My question is to the producers. Now, I don't know what Ayn Rand thought about labor unions with its tendency to coerce and bully, but if I presume correctly that you had to hire actors who were union members, how do you think Ayn Rand would feel that you had to film her film in a closed union shop?
You take that one, Harmon.
Well, for us, I mean, it was not really about whether we were going to do union or non-union. It was about finding the right, talented people to, execute.
But is he
God's
right?
vision.
Are they all union if you're shooting in L.A.?
Think what it's like for us being actors having to be a part of the union. We have no option. I mean, our hands are tied. It's incredibly frustrating. And there's a lot of people that I know, actors in Hollywood, that want to do what's called SAG Financial Core, which means they just do the bare minimum, give the bare minimum dues, because we know where the money's going. I got my card the other day and it says AFL-CIO on it.
Yes?
I just had a question for John. I was wondering, did you consider yourself libertarian all your life, or was there like a specific moment, I guess, in time where you became libertarian? And if so, did Ayn Rand have any influence on your bearing on that?
That was a great question. The other day, I went back to my small town where I graduated from high school. And in my early teens, 13 years old, I went and stood at the spot where I became a capitalist. It was not lemonade stand, but it was these snow cones where you butt flavoring, and I would go and buy the ice and put things together. And I stood there and I said, this is when I became a capitalist, at 13, selling at 5 cents per cup snow cones. And it was a great moment, just the other day.
And also, after that, you discovered Atlas Shrugged, and that changed you.
Yeah, in the 70s, I read the book, and those of you who have read the book know someone will come up and say, hey, when did you get zapped? Meaning, when did you read the book? And it does change your life for the better. It's a book that is something that you take in after a couple of months of reading it, and I think you'll find it will change your life.
Changed your life.
Certainly did.
Well, thank you, John Aguilera. I hope it happens. Harmon Kaslow, Matthew Marston. Thank you for making the film and joining us today. Coming up, President Obama says he's agreed to the largest annual spending cut in our history. Is he telling the truth? That's next. Tomorrow's April 15th. Your oppressive taxes are due then. Except this year they're not. This year they're due April 18th, next Monday. Why? Who here knows why?
It's a holiday.
It's a holiday. What's the holiday?
It's the Washington holiday.
George Washington? No.
No. It begins with an E.
Patriot Day? No.
It begins with an E.
E, that's right, Emancipation Day. Friday is the official celebration of Emancipation Day, the day President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Act, which freed not all the slaves, just 3,100 slaves in the nation's capital. Now, that happened in 1862, but it's been a holiday only since Washington, D.C.'s mayor declared it one 5 years ago, and it's an official holiday only in Washington. But that was enough to change tax day this year from April 15th to the 18th, except this seems weird because Emancipation Day is April 16th, not the 15th, so why change tax day? Because the government decided Emancipation Day has to be celebrated on a weekday, so the 16th being a Saturday, Emancipation Day must be celebrated the day before, which is April 15th, and so the tax deadline should be moved to the 18th. Got that? This is the kind of government thinking that gets us 80,000 pages of new rules. Here's the pile. 80,000 new pages every year. This, plus high taxes and complex rules, threaten the entrepreneurship that gives us the power to prosper. All those rules, every day they come out with another one of these. All this gives enormous power to the Wesley Mouches of Washington and in every state capital. Because most of these rules have a million possible interpretations, the bureaucrats have the power to stop any new enterprise or an expansion of an old one. This cripples economic growth, makes people afraid to innovate. But it's innovation that brings us all the best stuff. Now, this month brought us a possible breakthrough in freedom from government. To start, there were the small budget cuts that almost led to a government shutdown. The agreement that stopped the shutdown provoked the mainstream media to run ridiculous headlines like this one: biggest cuts in U.S. history. And President Obama called it the largest annual spending cut in our history. But it's not even close to that. $38 billion is a tiny cut, and the Wall Street Journal now reports that it's really only $20 billion or so. And that comes after Obama and Bush increased spending by $2 trillion. 38 or 20 billion is just 1% of the almost $4 trillion that they're going to spend. So this 1% cut's nowhere near a record. Spending dropped by more than 50% after World War II. On a percentage basis, it dropped even more in 1919. Yet the Washington Post runs headlines like that? In raw, unadjusted for inflation dollars, it is true. But that's deceitful. It's like saying the movie Shrek 3 is one of the highest-grossing movies of all time. Or that Coca-Cola costs 15 times more than it used to. It's not true if you adjust for inflation. But the political class wants you to think that any budget cut's a big deal. It's not a catastrophe. The good news is that last week, for the first time, Republicans offered real cuts, a path to a balanced budget. Paul Ryan's proposal repeals Obamacare, ends corporate welfare, would make the social safety net sustainable. Great. The Republican Study Committee went further. They proposed cuts that would end deficits in 8 years. That even inspired President Obama to propose his own deficit plan, though his is more about goals than specific cuts, and he'd raise some taxes. But at least, finally, there is serious talk about cutting the size of government, cutting spending. Now, if they'd only get serious about simplifying taxes and getting rid of most of these rules, you know? That's what kills entrepreneurship. And that's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night. Okay, thank you.